It was already getting late in the day when the 5,000 were fed by the multiplication of loaves and fishes. We can imagine that it was a little later in the evening, after dark, when Jesus told his disciples to row to the other side. And then it seems that Jesus spent more time with the crowd. It says that he said goodbye to them, and then he sent them away himself. The disciples were out on the lake. But then what does he do? He goes off into the hills to pray as he was wont to do. Getting up late, getting up early in the morning, or going to bed after the others. They had a bed, but anyway, you know what I mean. Wherever they were camping, Jesus seemed to disappear and pray on his own to his heavenly Father. This account tells us that they were making no progress. Indeed, there was a storm on the lake and they were worn out with rowing. The wind was against them. And then in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus comes. The fourth watch. It's the early hours of the morning. Fourth watch is really like 3 a.m. So they would be exhausted. And the fourth watch was a time when, if things were going to go wrong, that's when they went wrong. And so it's not surprising that they thought it was a ghost that they saw. Well, it's superstitious fear, I suppose, in many respects. But they were terrified. Well, we also have our superstitions, we have our fears, and we don't always trust in the providence of God. But when he gets into the boat with us, all is calm. And the thing is that even when Jesus was on the hills praying, he knew what was happening on the lake. Yes, they were put to the test, but the lesson they learnt was that perfect love drives out fear. We can't live our lives in fear. Fear of ghosts or whatever else might possibly go wrong. We need to be confident that the Lord has his eye on us, just as he had his eye on Peter's boat when they were out on the lake. He has his eye on us. We need to pray, of course. We need to pray a lot, more than we have been doing. And we need to pray that others will realize that God is in charge. They're not in charge of the boat. Anybody who thinks he is deluded. That's just how it is. That's probably enough for today, but there's a few other thoughts. Why did Jesus choose these men from Galilee who were fishermen? Well, they were probably trilingual. Galilee was like a crossroads of the nations. They needed to know Greek for commerce and trade. They needed to know Latin because that was the language of administration, and of course they knew Aramaic because that's the language they spoke. Also, until just recently really, the main way of travelling, if you wanted to leave your home of birth, was to go on the water, to go by sea. He needed men who would take the gospel to the known world at that time. Men who were brave and did not fear a storm. Such were the apostles, because if you could survive storms on the Lake of Galilee, you could survive storms on the Mediterranean and anywhere else. We should have great confidence in the way God has established his church using poor human instruments, but to realise that he definitely had a plan, and he sees the big picture, and he has his eye on us.